Seguimos adelante en el Risk Management and Trading Conference 2023 con extraordinarias charlas, extraordinarias ponencias, sin duda una oportunidad para escuchar a las mujeres y los hombres más importantes de la industria del riesgo en el mundo entero. Tenemos con nosotros ahora a Aziz. Él es CSO, él es el responsable del diseño y de investigación, desarrollo y diseño de productos dentro de S&C Algorithmics, una empresa que se ha destacado como uno de los grandes consultores en este mundo del riesgo, sobre todo para el sector financiero. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you, and mostly because in this moment things are changing worldwide. And when we talk about risk, a lot of different things are coming in to take in consideration. I heard you this morning and you were talking about a lot of different facts we have to take in consideration in order to be assertive while talking of risks. Thank you very much for this interview, Andrew.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's a pleasure.
Well, how do we have to redesign the risk strategy today according to the conditions we're looking all around the world?
Well, as a enterprise risk management, particularly focused on financial risks, has been around for about 30 years now. And, there's usually a slow evolution until there's a big event. And so the first big event was the global financial crisis. And prior to that, if you think of the measures people were looking at, the data that was required, and then the analytics to transform the data into the metrics, prior to the global financial crisis, it was very, very focused on a few metrics, primarily proxies for capital. The data to calibrate was very structured over a short period, and the analytics was very black box with hard-coded assumptions around parameters and so on. Then the global financial crisis hit, and there was a recognition that, maybe we didn't look at things more holistically. And so since then, there's been a requirement to have more metrics and to use greater sources of data during stress periods as well and other content, and to have the analytics really much more transparent so that we can understand when we start with the data source, the lineage to the actual metric, and to have more flexibility. That has been a big improvement. However, I think we're at another point right now, which is not dissimilar to the impact the global financial crisis had. And I think the impact now is that looking forward, there are many, many sources of risk, many more than just market credit, liquidity, operational risk. There's cyber risks that we haven't seen before. Climate is, of course, a major, major issue. And the types of content we have has to go beyond just the structured data that risk managers have traditionally looked at. There's new sources of data. There's tick data. There's social media. There's unstructured and structured data. All of this has to come together. And then the models, not only do they have to be transparent and open, they have to adapt to new information tick by tick. It's the only way that we're going to be able to put some intuition behind it, because we have to move beyond black box models. We have to be able to understand, in 20 years, what's the impact of climate effects, physical risk, transition risk, and so on. And so I think we're entering into a new period now where the best financial engineer isn't the person that knows the stochastic calculus. It goes beyond that. It goes into the social sciences, it goes into data science, and it really is changing, I think, the nature of risk management.
And mostly in a moment that, most of the old used risks or kinds of risk, these usually, they had a parameter to be calculated.
Right.
For example, you were talking about reputation, but as well as socio-political problems.
Exactly.
Society is whatever you see in Europe, in France, in Spain, all Latin America, we're having now something very crazy things that are going beyond the reality is going much far away rather than the stories.
Exactly. And then the whole discipline of model risk increases. What is good data? What is bad data? It's much more complicated now when the source of our data comes from different infrastructures.
Artificial intelligence. We don't know the day that a computer will make a fraud.
Exactly.
We don't know the day that it will happen. But it can happen. It's something that we're exposed to, and we don't know when it could happen.
And I think it's why we have to look at it from the entire balance sheet point of view. We have to have an integrated approach across the balance sheet to look at risk holistically, where the regulations are just constraints that we have. They're the minimum that we should be doing on risk management, not the entire part of risk management. And I think it's definitely going to change the way we operate going forward.
There are technically 3 pillars. Explain us how to work with these pillars in order to make our risk planning and our strategy to go further.
So by pillars, you mean regulation, technology, and analytics?
Exactly.
So I won't speak a lot for regulation. I think by the nature of regulation, it has to be conservative, it has to be prudent. So to some extent, it's always going to lag a little bit. It's always going to be related to the most recent crisis. Silicon Valley Bank, okay, we'll see some new regulations because of what happened there. So I won't speak too much about that, but I think when we talk about technology and analytics, it has to be forward-looking. It really has to bring in the new types of analytics and the new types of data sources that are now available. And now, on the one hand, we have much more complexity than we've ever had before, because of cyber risk, because of cryptocurrencies, because of environmental concerns and reputational risk and so on. And that makes it a challenge. But at the same time, we are available to us forms of technology we never had before. It used to be the case 20 years ago, a risk management implementation took a year. It was a gigantic infrastructure that was hard to implement and very structured. Today, the technology has to be much more nimble. And that's where the cloud comes in, and microservices, and be able to construct an architecture that you can plug and play, yet still audit and validate. And then on top of that, machine learning, intelligent automation, robotic, all of that is going to enable us to at least, not fall too far behind as the world changes so dramatically.
Andy, in this moment, you have participated more than once in this event along the years. But what could you say about the Risk Management and Trading Conference? How you will describe it?
I speak over my career, which has been 25 years, I've spoken at many conferences around the world in different countries on different risk topics. This conference has always been my favorite. It's been my favorite because it attracts an unbelievable set of speakers, experts from around the world. The topics are very broad, and it has a very engaged audience of both industry and academia. It is absolutely my favorite conference to go to.
Well, thank you very much. It has been a pleasure to talk to you, and mostly to have the opportunity this morning to hear you, as well as the opportunity to talk straight with you in this moment with all the rest of our audience digitally talking. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Absolutely my pleasure, and I look forward to the next time.